Toyota, Mazda and Subaru have revealed that they're currently investing hundreds of millions of dollars, potentially even billions of dollars, into their next generation internal combustion engines. Apparently, a lot of investors are saying, we want answers. This is not a good decision. This is utterly freaking ridiculous. We want answers. In automotive news, they have just published the fact that all three of these companies are trying to make a persuasive case for why their next generation internal combustion engines are a good idea, but apparently questions are completely unanswered. Hello my friends, welcome to the channel. I'm Sam Evans. You're watching the Electric Viking. It's great to see you. Toyota, Mazda and Subaru, what are they doing? Well, for one, Mazda have said a number of times over the last 6 months to 12 months that they are going all in on internal combustion. They're not interested in EVs. They're going to make some EVs, but they're really interested in investing significant sums in internal combustion. They want to perfect the internal combustion engine. They consider it to be like an art. You know what this reminds me of? Mazda reminds me of the Samurai. You know, right when, remember the movie The Last Samurai? And in that movie, it was kind of this juxtaposition between the old and the new. The samurai were obviously still using swords, but the Japanese army had machine guns, and the samurai were saying, no, you need to fight with swords. That's the way to do it. That's where we've always done it. We can't change. This whole concept of machine guns and, you know, bombs and all this stuff. That's old. That's not the way things are done here in Japan. But anyway. Clearly Toyota, Mazda and Subaru are in that same boat. They're all kind of like samurais, kind of trying to hold on to their glorious past. That's what I think anyway, guys. What do you think? Toyota and its allies, Mazda and Subaru, and to be fair, Mazda and Subaru are not really Toyota allies. They're more like they're minions, if anything. Anyway, they hosted a marathon multi-pathway workshop this week to pitch their so-called bright vision for perpetuating internal combustion into the EV age. Bright vision for perpetuating internal combustion. Sounds a little bit like, you know, guys who used to sell horses back in the 1920s and the 1930s. I'm sure they wanted to perpetuate the idea of having a horse forever. I'm sure they mentioned all the many benefits that horses had over cars back then too. It was a meticulously choreographed extravaganza, says Automotive News, months in the making, that brought the CEOs of the three car makers on stage along with their chief technology officers. They presented a rare unified front on a technology strategy seemingly out of sync with the entire global automotive industry. The session for journalists lasted an incredibly exhausting 3 hours. I believe many journalists went to sleep. This included breakout portions for each company, showcasing a plethora of prototype vehicles and next generation engine mock-ups, including, of course, hydrogen engines. And their hydrogen engines are pretty much just internal combustion engines that run at extremely high temperatures. That's basically how hydrogen burns at very high temperatures. So those engines have been known to melt. That's some of the challenge that they have to overcome in order to, you know, get hydrogen engines to become a thing, which they think they will. A follow-on session for analysts ran for another 3 hours. So you're looking at a 6-hour marathon session. Guys, when I was a kid growing up, first, I don't know, 20 years of my life, my parents were Mormons. Well, my parents are Mormons. And so we would go to church for 3 hours, and then generally we would have another hour session after that 3 hours later on, sometimes 2 hours later on. So I'd often have about 5 hours at church on a Sunday. I can tell you, for a kid, that's a long time. But 6 hours doing this marathon internal combustion engine saga coming from these Japanese automakers, I don't think I can think of anything worse. Time frames, costs, investment figures, efficiency gains, plans for corporate synergies, a whole range of concrete details were, well, left out. The media are like, what? You're going to give us any facts here? 6 hours of crap? You're not even going to give us any. This is what Automotive News Europe says. Now, keep in mind, Automotive News, they are very much targeted towards the automotive industry, not just the consumers. But they said timeframes, costs, investment figures, efficiency gains, plans for corporate synergies, concrete details of any sort were conveniently left out of this 6-hour marathon session. The company's proposition for multiple paths to carbon neutrality is persuasive, they said. assuming the transition to a cleaner future ruled by EVs will be halting and slow. But room for doubt abounds, from the assumptions underpinning Toyota's calculations on emissions to the lofty optimism in futuristic carbon-neutral fuels, which are ridiculously expensive, and the focus on saving jobs. Or, well, when they say saving jobs, what they're really meaning is saving the Japanese automotive industry, which is in dire peril of being annihilated, along with the Japanese economy as well. One big takeaway, says Automotive News, was that Toyota and its affiliates still have work cut out for them. A lot of work and a lot of hope. Complicated calculations were the thing. Key to the big picture plan from Toyota's CEO Koji Sato is the argument that combustion-equipped hybrids churn out about the same amount of carbon dioxide over their life as battery-only EVs. Now, this has been proven many times by numerous different sources to be completely false. But according to Toyota, it's not. It's all legit. True story. That life cycle evaluation is based on a well-to-tank assessment that considers the emissions of creating the gasoline or electricity, but it doesn't consider the fact that EVs get recycled. The battery packs are often used in a second life, which is to power homes or power all kinds of other things, and then the lithium and the minerals in those battery packs is going to be recycled. They already are getting recycled. It ignores that, of course. It does factor in emissions from the manufacturing supply chain, though where they get that data, I'm guessing they're cherry picking it, from stamping sheet metal as well to mining battery chemicals. Keep in mind though, that now mines are converting to becoming renewable energy powerhouses as well. Many mines now are powered by renewable energy, and much of the equipment and the trucks that they use now are becoming more and more powered by electricity. The PowerPoint slides typically shown by Toyota to communicate their ideas give generalized bar graphs with no quantifiable comparisons between hybrids and EVs. Of course, that's intentional. Big on hype, low on facts was what the media said. Toyota acknowledges the assessment differs by region. In countries such as France that rely on nuclear power, or in countries using renewables, for example, EVs account for far fewer emissions than what Toyota are, representing. But what about on a global basis? How far down the supply chain, the supply line of life cycle assessment should the calculation go? There are some economic sectors over which automakers exert little control, such as energy, mining, or the emissions from cargo ships that move cars across the ocean. But Toyota didn't factor in the reality here, and that is that every year, a higher percentage of the global electricity market is fueled by renewable energy. That percentage is continuing to increase as the price of solar, batteries, and wind comes down. Toyota's Chief Technology Officer Hiroki Nakajima says that even the US market isn't a monolith. Vehicle usage and energy supply sources vary radically by region. Anyhow, looking at Toyota's actual technology plans, or I should say Toyota, Mazda and Subaru's, only Toyota presented something entirely new. That was its plan for cleaner, downsized 1.4 litre and 2 litre engines that can work with hybrid setups and burn a range of so-called carbon neutral fuels. Now, like I've said in the past, so-called neutral fuels are not in fact carbon neutral, but that aside, they're incredibly expensive. On average, 10 times more expensive than gasoline. Do you know anyone that's going to be willing to pay 10 times the price? Didn't think so. Subaru focused on its hybrid Boxer engine project, something it already announced that enters production this fall. CEO at Sushi Osaki said Subaru remains committed to its horizontally opposed engine, the Boxer engine that's been in Subaru's cars now for, I believe, more than 30 years, because it's a brand building icon. He offered little new insight into its future evolution. Now, my last experience, guys, with the Boxer engine was when it blew up in my Subaru Liberty GT. That car had done literally 55,000 miles, and I treated it really nicely. But anyway, it was losing oil. I didn't realize at a rapid pace, and the engine turbo blew up. In fact, it happened twice. Yeah, like I said, a relatively new car. Anyhow, Mazda CEO Masahiro Moro said his company will develop future versions of its rotary engine to run on carbon neutral fuels and combine with electrified hybrid setups. But he also revealed that the company has not yet sorted out some rotary engine problems that they're facing, and they're waiting on the technology to fix those problems, but it hasn't happened yet. That too, though, was something the company has already outlined in the past. Moro did shed new light, saying there will be 1 and 2 blade variants. That's not a reference to the BYD's blade battery, just to some kind of obscure internal combustion technology. The 2 blade variant would be geared towards extra power and a lower center of gravity for sporty applications. So, the one interesting thing here was that there is no common development. Toyota owns minority shares in Mazda and Subaru. But despite that, the company's made clear that this engine reborn idea, this marketing plan, doesn't involve joint development, common procurement, shared production, or technology tie-ups. None of that is happening. So it's nothing. It's just 3 companies saying, yeah, we're in it till the end. We're in it till the dying end. You know, when eventually no one wants to buy actual film canisters anymore, well, we'll keep on selling them as long as we possibly can. Even Honda and Nissan, which have no cross shareholdings, announced this year they will study that kind of cooperation in regard to electric vehicles and software. Toyota said its compact engines will enable a new generation of super sleek designs more akin to EVs, with low hoods, short overhangs, and big airy windows, and lots of fart noises coming from the exhaust. That's because the engines take up less room under the hood and sit lower. Toyota referenced designs similar to the wedge-shaped Lexus LF-ZC concept shown at last year's auto show in Japan. But the engines are only about 10% lower than their predecessors, really a meaningless difference, a matter of centimeters. It remains to be seen whether there is enough of a difference to be any noticeable difference in terms of you as a customer being able to tell. So when are these engines coming? Well, Toyota said its new engines will come in several years from now. Seriously, it doesn't have a long-range vision that it wants to kind of share though. Mazda and Subaru steered clear of talking about dates. Their hesitance was especially palpable when it came to the use of carbon neutral fuels. So basically journalists said, okay, carbon neutral fuels, how's this going to work? I mean, who's making it? Where's it going to be? How much is it going to cost, etc. Running engines on carbon neutral fuels, such as so-called synthetic e-fuels, which actually do have exhaust emissions that come out of the engine. That's a fact. Biodiesel or hydrogen is a key step, they say. Otherwise, even when combined with batteries and electric motors, the new power plants will spew out carbon dioxide. Cost is a huge hurdle to carbon neutral fuels. Synthetic e-fuels, which are made by combining hydrogen with captured carbon dioxide, are used in motorsports, but the fuel costs 10 times more than gasoline. Toyota's Nakajima admitted that. The global supply of it is a mere drop in the vast ocean of gasoline sloshing around the planet's filling stations. Then there are the lingering questions about dealing with trace emissions from burning carbon neutral fuels such as nitrogen oxides. Nitrogen oxides, what do? Breathe enough of them in, you're going to get cancer. That's simply a fact. Engine lubricants also burn, releasing their own pollutants, such as oil. The auto industry alone can't bring these high-tech green fuels to fruition. Toyota is trying to, but it can't do it alone. It has partnered with fossil fuel manufacturers to make hydrogen, but that's years away. Anyhow, when are they going to be available? Toyota, Mazda, and Subaru asked, when are these synthetic fuels coming that are going to power these next-generation engines? Well, they couldn't provide any answers. What about jobs? Securing the domestic supply chain was another key message at this workshop. Basically, these automakers say that these internal combustion engine plans will save the Japanese automotive industry. The Japan Automobile Manufacturers Association often talks about the importance of managing a sustainable shift to electrification so as not to let China take away their automotive industry and to not endanger the livelihood of the 5.5 million people in Japan who directly work for automotive companies and the approximately 50 million jobs supported by those 5.5 million direct jobs, meaning a total of potentially 60 million jobs that could go were the Japanese automotive industry to basically implode, which is what many people, including myself, think is now inevitable. Could this plan work? Will it save the Japanese automotive industry? What do you think? Let me know in the comments. I think you already know what I think. Thank you for watching. Bye-bye.